Let me know when I'm live on both.
You're live on.
You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower, right here in absolutely snowy Northport, Florida. And I did say snowy, just to kind of set the tone. It is December. We do have an icy picture on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're out there in listening land, you can also join us on Facebook and YouTube, WKDW Radio, and also Real Talk 97.5. If you type those two things in, you should be able to pull us up. So here's the beauty of being in Florida with a snowy sunset or a snowy picture in the background. I'm in shorts and short sleeve shirt, and I'm loving life right now, but I'm heading to Ohio next week. But I've got some really special people in the house, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They are from C.A.R.E. Go ahead and take the stage.
Hi, John, and hey, thank you for having us on again. We really do appreciate what you do for C.A.R.E. and that you allow us to have this time each month. So my name's Wendy Silva, and I am the Sexual Assault Program Manager. And here with me today is our brand new rape prevention and education advocate. Poor girl just started at 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm throwing her in already. So
all right,
the faster she learns, the better off. So when Amy's not going to be available in the future, this will be Sandra's job as our rape prevention, education, outreach, and awareness advocate. So we're really, really looking forward to her because she'll be doing a lot of our social media. And we're really excited to have her on board.
Nice. So what is your background, Sandra?
So I have a degree in criminal justice. I graduated from FGCU not too long ago. I've always wanted to do victim advocacy. It's always kind of made sense to me and appealed to me, learning about trauma and how trauma impacts somebody and how they grow up. Basically, like, you can't really blame somebody for acting a certain way when that's all they've ever known, like how to survive. And a lot of times people with trauma, they get a predator or prey mentality, eat or be eaten. So that's why they're either victims or they become the prey. So it really does play a big role in someone's life. And I'm really excited to educate people on that, just be more mindful on how that may affect somebody in adulthood, I also used to work at DJJ for a bit. But yeah, it was fun as well. So I'm a little informed on trauma, informed care.
So for those who don't know, DJJ is the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Okay.
Where she worked with children that had been incarcerated in the juvenile justice system. And so she has real insight into that childhood trauma and how that continues to lead into worse behaviors and that, as she said, that victim, prey, eat or be eaten mentality that our kids can grow up with, which, as we know, John, then plays into either being the victim of domestic violence and sexual assault or being the predator of such.
Well, and I'm going to ask this question because I think it's a good lead in, because I don't know that we've really addressed it from this angle before, which is odd because we've been at this for about 2.5 years now. And we always think we have all the angles covered, and then kind of a new one pops up because I'm looking at Sandra and I'm jealous because she's a lot younger than I am. So, knowing that she's got age and on her side, along with the fact that she's probably a guru at social media at this point. There is something to be said with the younger generation, and if you were maybe around the behaviors that we're talking about, does the younger generation, do you think they're more aware of their surroundings, or are there still some areas that need to be exposed as far as communications? on what to expect and when?
I really do think that they may be more communicative. However, with the implementation of social media and everything, there's more room to be jealous, to jump to conclusions, and they don't know how to handle those emotions yet. Like you don't really think about talking to your teenager or preteen about jealousy, who's controlling, like red flags. So with that, the kids will partake in that, and it's very easy to like sneak that away from parents, any adult figure, like any figure that is going to be there and tell you, no, this is not right, you need to stop. So I think with that, that also plays a huge factor. And then also just the normalization of sex and media and everything. It kind of normalizes the kids, and sex should be like an open topic and everything, but it needs to be explained to children before it's like really put out there.
Well,
Between parents and kids.
so I'm going to stick with the social media side for a second, because in the world that we're in today, it seems to me, and I am connected in social media side of things, but not as in depth as others. And what I've seen is there's a lot of misinformation that goes around on social media, and different concepts that are out there to how to handle things. So I know that is one side of what you battle. The other thing is I'm wondering on the, and it's funny they call it social media, but there's a social skill standard that was part of what we grew up with that isn't really present today, because social media has changed a lot of those habits that we had. We used to be able to go and visit our friends or pick up the phone and call them and communicate that way. And now it's done a whole different way, whether it be through text messages or even just, and I'm going to say this the wrong way. It's all the three letters means a whole sentence sometimes. And it's like, holy cow, when you're dealing with that side of things, and people like myself, we're watching, we don't even sometimes identify with some of the language that's out there and understand what's happening right in front of our face. And I know the younger generation is all over that. They understand what they see. Can that be a problem along the way?
With miscommunication between a trusted adult, yes, it can be. The adult will kind of brush it off as, oh, it's just the way kids speak, and they may be unaware that it may have a deeper meaning to their child in the long run. You really have to be on top of everything if you have a kid nowadays, because you never know what they're seeing. You can't be monitoring them all the time. So it's very scary. I feel for parents out there.
And John, like you were saying today, I mean, back when we were kids, like you had your little group, you had, the football kids and the basketball kids and the gymnastics kids, and everybody kind of knew each other, and we had to interact personally or call each other on the phone. Today, it's all about how many followers do I have? If I don't have enough followers, if I don't get enough like and shares, if, that's how they set up their popularity and how they fit in. Where as kids, you and I, we fit in by, did we play basketball? Were we cheerleaders? Were we on the swim team? Were we in the science lab? That kind of stuff. Today, it's so much different.
Kind of piggybacking on what you said, that's how they really get their self-validation too. And then a lot of people can fake anything on social media, so it really skews their perception of themselves and other people. It's insane.
Well, and we've had situations even locally here now over the last few years. We've had some teacher interactions the wrong way, and I don't want to bash teachers, because it's not every teacher. It's not a common thing out there amongst teachers, but it does happen, just like it happens everywhere else. But knowing that and paying attention, I've gotten much better at my skill set because I've been interviewing C.A.R.E and great staff like you guys have for a couple of years now. So even when I go out and I scan my environment, I was taught at an early age by my dad, who, and all joking aside, taught me that skill set to go to bars. Now, all joking aside, that's very appropriate when you really start to think about it, because when I was old, or when I was transitioning from high school or into going to bars, back in the day was 18. It's 21 now. That's a 3-year difference. And it matters, that 3 years. But today, there's so many different ways that kids are attempting to be 21 before they're 21. And they get to hide behind a lot of false information to make themselves look older. And I'm bringing this up because I think it kind of plays hand in hand with a lot of abuse along the way, whether it's intentional or not. It doesn't really matter, because abuse is abuse. But do you see that narrative playing out? And I'm asking both of you this question, so either one of you could jump in. But do you see that narrative playing out in today, where social media and other avenues of the social network play hand in hand with some of these situations where younger generations find themselves in a really difficult situation?
Well, we find out a lot, especially with human traffickers. Human traffickers, they spot these girls, and they can tell, because they don't have as many followers or likes or shares. And so they start liking and sharing and just playing to their ego and building them up. And, the more I know about you, and the more you tell me about yourself, the more interested I can seem, and the more it looks like I believe in you, and I care for you, and I want to be there for you. And the next thing you know, we're being hooked up, and we're meeting in person. And now, you're buying me jewelry, and you're telling me how much you care about me. And I've already told you my home life is crap. I live on my computer, da, da, da. And that's that grooming process that human traffickers use. And social media is one of the worst places for that. We also know that social media feeds that perfect image of the perfect model body and the perfect skinned face. And, and there's been so much in the news about how these girls are, and even boys, their self-esteem is suffering because they can't live up to this idealistic view, and they're using filters. And these kids have said, I haven't even seen a real picture of myself in 5 years. It's always filtered or doctored in one way or another. What way is that to grow up, that you're afraid to actually look in the mirror at who you really are? That's horrible. But it happens continuously, and social media is the worst venue for that.
And do you have anything to add, Sandra?
I really agree with what you said. I could not imagine growing up with like filters and everything. It's normal for like every kid to be a little insecure, but to the point where you don't even want to see a picture of yourself unless it's been altered is something I really could not imagine.
Well, and you just used a word, and so did you, Wendy, the insecure part. So I don't care whether you're male or female, that insecurity, that plays a huge hand in a lot of behavior that is happening now. And I don't care if it was 25 years ago. It just wasn't, and I'm going to use this word, exploited to the level it is today, because we didn't have the instant information out, and the social media side that's kind of blasting that information, where it's public information. Go ahead.
And we have done a whole lot of research, and actually C.A.R.E is working in conjunction with Charlotte County Department of Health in that, understanding how ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, continue to play into these, when you've been beaten as a child, or you've witnessed domestic violence as a child, or you've witnessed crime as a child. Those are adverse childhood experiences. And when you grow up in that feeling of being unsafe, and you grow up in that environment of feeling like no one truly cares for you, you are more apt to find yourself as prey to someone else's predator. or being the predator because that's what you grew up with. And so we know that these adverse childhood experiences have that continued effect on people as they grow. And we found that the more, 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, come on, look at my household. I probably had 20, but that there is much more likelihood of mental illness, of personality disorders, as well as victimization. We know that people who grew up with 4 or more ACEs are more likely to be victims of domestic violence and will go through several domestically violent relationships. And if they don't find the right help at the right time, that is a cycle that just seems to continue throughout their life over and over again. And they begin to believe that's what they deserve. And that's because that was put in front of them as children. Mm-hmm. And so social media in the hands of our children who are already witnessing substance abuse in their homes, witnessing domestic violence in their homes, witnessing violence in the streets, on campuses, in the schools, and then you put social media on top of that, our children are at risk.
I would also like to piggyback on the adverse childhood experience score. I actually read an article in college about that, and it was surprisingly a dietitian who was trying to get people to lose weight, and they were not doing it. And then he dug deeper and found out that these people were abused as kids sexually when they were thinner, and they refused to lose weight or anything, and they didn't know why, but then they kind of figured out it's because that's how they felt safer. No one would try to violate them or anything because they were in a bigger body. So I think that's very interesting to think of as well.
Yeah. And I know, as you know, I used to work in the child welfare system. And when you would see children who would refuse to bathe, refuse to change their clothes, because if I stink and I'm dirty, you'll stay away from me.
Deterrence.
And so these are things that they take on, and they don't verbalize that. And sometimes they don't even realize that's what they're doing. But through psychotherapy and counseling, we find out, oh, this child was sexually assaulted, and this is a way of keeping everybody away from me.
Well, and I want to talk about that a little bit, because everybody expects people to grow and maybe change where they've been over time or elevate themselves in one way or another. Everything that we've been talking about over the last few years, it seems to me that very similar to a criminal once he's in the system. It's kind of the system that's now governing what happens. Do you think that a lot of times that's what a victim feels like, because they're kind of in that groove, but they know where the safe spot is, but yet it's not outside of that realm? A lot of times it's just that really small niche of safetiness that they have, and they're kind of locked into that system, and it's really hard to break them out, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it can be. And I think that part of it is, a lot of times, we know that victims of domestic violence don't always come forward to talk about the violence that they've exhibited. And a lot of times, if it was something that has come from childhood and it has come up through the years with them, they just consider it as normal, so they don't always talk about it. But we know that it takes one really, truly caring person. That's all it takes. One person who believes you, who cares about you, who validates you, to help you to say, wow, I am worthy. I am lovable. I can be more. And that's our job here at C.A.R.E, is always to empower, to help them to see past the flaws and see the perfections within themselves. We all have our own little perfections as well as our flaws. So our goal is to empower victims. However, if victims don't always come forward, we can't help them. So that's where we do a lot of outreach and awareness to help victims know we are here. We don't judge. We don't say, leave him. That's a choice you have to make for yourself. Our goal is to help you to plan for safety, and to know that you are loved, you are believed, and you are cared for, and to empower you to make healthy choices in your life. And so we try to take, and even with ACEs, when you look at children, you know, I worked in foster care for 20 years in the foster care system. And some kids, I still, every once in a while, I'll turn on the news and there's a kid I worked with getting arrested for some stupid stuff. But I seen kids who made it. And the difference was they had one really supportive person, whether it was a grandparent, it was a guardian ad litem, it was the actual foster parent. They had one truly supportive parent who made them feel safe and made them feel cared for. And it's the same with adults. Once they reach this point, if they can find that place where they feel safe and they know they're cared for, you'll see them start to make progress out of that cycle.
And you know, I love how we're talking about this, because when you start actually looking at things through a different lens, and a lot of people go through life every day and they barely see the person in front of them. And because they're either too busy or, and I hate to say this, but we've learned over time now with the styles of media and social media that we have, it's easier to disconnect from everything. And
sorry for the luck, glad it wasn't me.
What's
and
that?
Moving on.
Do what?
I said, there, you know, we go through the world with this. Sorry for your luck. Glad it wasn't me, and I'm moving on.
Like
Correct. So you know where I'm going with this whole thing is because I think that we've now learned not to pay attention to our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean,
used to know all my neighbors. Now
right.
I know the guy across the street and the guy on each side of me, and that's about it.
That is true, but you're not by yourself.
True.
Because I'm kind of blessed in our circle that we have here. We have get-togethers. I have a lot of older people that are by themselves. So I hate to say this, but I'm like the youngest one on my circle, which is a cool thing. But you know, everybody's always asking for stuff. But I always pay attention to that too, because we're all connected, but we're relatively close to the same age. And now I'm looking at the younger generation who has really learned how to not just not communicate, but even when they get involved in a social environment, there's a lot of them that struggle. And I'm wondering that is there a connection with the younger generation who gets caught up into a situation and they find themselves not in a real good place mentally because they've never been social outside of the social communication online. Is that once they get into the public realm, they don't even know who to trust.
I think that's very capable, because now I got to talk to you in person, and I can't just say LOL, ROL. You know, I just can't talk in these acronyms and just, you know, emoji. I'm here, and you can see my real expressions and so I'm more guarded because I don't want a negative reaction. And so, yeah, that social interaction and social awkwardness is very much heightened. And as adolescents, John, you know, we had our own social anxieties, you know.
All the time.
Yeah. Like, I want to ask her out, but, you know, or he's going to ask me to the dance, you know, like that kind of stuff. But today, kids don't have that face-to-face time. And now I am face-to-face with you. I don't know how to act with you. I can't just hit the emoji button.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Sandra.
It's very odd. After working at the Department of Juvenile Justice, I have overheard like the kids speaking, and they're always like, they spend so much time together that they say whatever, And they're always like, well, I hate when this happens. Da, da, da. I don't know if I can trust her. Da, da, da. And then one kid leaves and another one comes. And then they start talking about the other kid. And it's all about trust at the end of the day as well. They're very confused. It's very absurd to me.
You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower. And I'm interviewing C.A.R.E, and I've got Wendy and Sandra. I just want you real quick, we're about halfway through, roughly. Can you go ahead and give contact information on how people can get a hold of you? Here's the beauty in this, in all of this. There's nothing recorded on these lines. It's all about helping the community. And can you tell a little bit about that as you're giving the information?
Okay, so C.A.R.E has a 24-hour helpline, and it is 100% free and confidential. Nothing at all is ever recorded. So the phone number for C.A.R.E is 941-639-5499. Our, and I've got to look because I never remember the numbers. I don't dial them.
That's all right. It's there's the other side of the internet that we all have had to get used to. Is I know back when I was a kid, I still have my baseball cards memorized from when I was a kid, but man, I used to be able to zip off phone numbers, and I can't do it anymore. I have to look in my phone.
I can tell you my phone number from growing up, but if you ask me my husband's phone number now, I've got to look it up.
That's exactly correct.
So as it says on the screen now, C.A.R.E Sexual Assault Helpline is 941-637-0404. We have our crisis line, which is 941-627-6000. We have a line in Inglewood, which is 941-475-6465. You can go on carefl.org. That's our website, carefl.org. On there, you can have, there's a text option. And our text line, we don't have cookies. We don't have no way of tracking it. So and it has like this escape button that if you hit the escape button, that's it. It shuts it down. So no one's going to find out. And there's no print of it. There's no history of it nowhere. We do that because we never know when the abuser might come in or might walk up. And so we want to make it very easy for survivors to be able to contact us. All of those lines are answered by well-trained, well-qualified advocates, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep, give us a call. Somebody is sitting here waiting for the phone to ring. We're here Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Easter Sunday. We are here. This is what we do. We offer all kinds of support for all different situations. We have a safe shelter for victims of domestic violence. We have advocates that go to the hospital for sexual assault or domestic violence victims that report to the emergency room. We have economic justice advocates here that help with repair and credit, helping to learn to make a budget, helping to learn to plan a menu. And we also help with getting a month's rent or security deposit, working with landlords to take a chance when your abusers destroyed your credit. We, right now it's Christmas and we are just blessed. We are so blessed. You have no idea. And I want to make a big shout out to the entire community who has taken time, talent, and treasure to donate to C.A.R.E to make sure survivors and their children have a Christmas. We're taking in donations of toys and clothes and housewares. And it's just so important because these families come to us sometimes with absolutely nothing. And so being able to have them come, and we have Santa Claus here, and the kids get to come and see Santa and get a present. And we have we set up a little gift shop for mommies that the kids get to go in and pick a gift for their mommy for Christmas. And then we have the room set up for the parents to go in and pick. I mean, we don't say, oh, well, your child is 5. Here's a gift. Here's your child. No, here's a whole humongous room full of toys. Go pick out the toys that you think your child would like, the toys that you want to give your child. And so, and then, we do have leftovers, and those usually go into sheds, because guess what? Christmas is not the only time kids are in shelter. Have a kid in shelter for their birthday, and mom doesn't have any money. We got a shed with some stuff. Go pick some out, or the kid just graduated from kindergarten. We want to have a party for him and give him a toy. And, there's a lot of things that we do with those donations. And we are just so extremely grateful to the community for everything they do for us at the holidays. It's just amazing.
So we are blessed to be in that community that it's constantly giving. But the angle that you just talked about, I want to go there for a second, because in the world of abuse, or even the human trafficking side of things, people are not in their best place during that time frame. Whether you're male or female, you're not in your best place, and there's a lot of doubt, misbelieving going on, lack of trust, whether it is within the same household that you're in, or even outside of that, because a lot of times people are putting pressure on that they don't understand, and they're moving people to make, I think, less bold moves by applying pressure in the wrong way. But I want to talk a little bit, before I go there, I want to talk a little bit about why the gift and all of those things are there, and I'm going to say it, and then I'll let you take it. That moment in time where you change a mindset of an individual and their kids, that's got to be, and I'm getting goosebumps because I know where your story's going to go, okay? But that moment in time where you take and you change their mindset, you flip them almost upside down on an emotional scale, because you've now given them something that wasn't expected, and furthered their belief into what could be relief for them in the end. Can you talk about some of those transitions and what you've seen?
It's it's overwhelming at times. Because they'll come in, and like I said, sometimes they come in with absolutely nothing but clothes on their back. And to watch us survive, and we have a mom come in, and we're saying, no, pick out toys. Are you really anything I want, really? And they'll just break down in tears, and you're fighting back your own tears, because it's just so fantastic to show them we care and we're here. And we want to see you get through this and not just get out of the abuser's house. We want to help you along this healing journey. And if it means helping you out for Christmas this year, and maybe Easter coming up, and, we're going to be here. We're not just going to say one and done. Sorry, we did what we could. You're on your own. That's not the way we work. And, when they're in shelter and they don't have anything, and they're coming out of shelter, and we're able to give them dishes and silverware and pots and pans and cleaning supplies to move into their first apartment or place on their own, and help them to know that you're not alone. We're here for you. We're here to help you to get on through this. Because, what good am I? Might say, okay, leave your abuser, come stay in my shelter. You got 6 weeks, get it together, because in 6 weeks you're out on your butt. Why bother leaving where I'm at?
Right.
That's
true.
So when you come in, We're going to have you meet with case managers. We're going to have you meet with crisis advocates. We're going to have you meet with economic justice advocates. We're going to have you meet with legal advocates, all depending on what your situation is, to get you all services that you possibly need to begin your healing journey and move on. And sometimes that's as a single woman who has no children, as a single man, as a man with kids, a woman with kids, whatever you need from us, that's what we're here for.
A lot of the time it's just, educating and giving them options. A lot of times these victims do not know they can get out. There are people willing to help them because their abuser tells them there's nobody's gonna put up with you, like I will, like nobody's gonna do this and that. And then when you hear it enough times, you start to believe it, so they really think they're stuck.
Yeah. I'm gonna call DCF and make you and let them know how crazy you are and how you don't deserve to have these kids. And nobody gonna believe you. I'm gonna end up with these kids. Who's gonna support you? Yeah. There's a really fantastic series on Netflix right now. I've only watched 3 episodes, but I read the book, and the book was so much better. But that's beside the point. It's called Made. And in there, it really, really talks about first, coming up with the courage to leave. And then, you got to go over here and you fill out the forms for WIC, and you got to go over here and fill out your forms for SNAP, and go over here and get your subsidized daycare, and go over here and get this and get this and get this and go here and go here. In the meantime, mom's going, I have no childcare. I have no transportation. I have no job. How am I supposed? We need the last 2 pay stubs. I don't have a job. Well, without pay stubs, I can't get you childcare. So how do I prove that I need childcare to get a job if I don't have a job to qualify for childcare? So our job here is to help them to really negotiate through those systems so that by the time they go into their own place, we've got all those things set in place. And it's not that me against the world. It's us against the outside, and we're going to through it.
Here's something you just said that I and I'm going to take it right back to system, because we talked about that earlier in the show in the first segment, is that once you're in the system, and it's funny that I didn't think we would go into the system side of it again on the second half of the show, but we're talking about a system that's really designed for feeling free for all and moving forward and grinding your life out and just moving through life. Where if you're a victim or you're part of human trafficking, there is no grind. Your grind is survival at with the minimal exposure. And that's coming from me, just from what I've learned from you guys. That's how I picture it, is that somebody who's in that situation is absolutely, they're grinding their wheels almost to a safety halt. Sometimes they're not trying to push through a wall or blow through a hole in the wall to get to the other side, because the fear factor that's involved with combating the system is a problem. And you guys are just not. You said this earlier too. It's not a one and done. And please explain that most victims aren't handled on the first visit or the first phone call. And that's not how the hotline works, correct?
No, unfortunately, usually, when we answer that call, we never know who's going to be on the other end. Our first goal is to listen, just listen and believe, and to validate that their feelings are real and their feelings are valid. And sometimes it can, we've had survivors that we've never even learned their names, that we've talked on the phone to. Maybe they'll call every 3 to 4 weeks for a year before they finally decide to leave. That's not my, my goal, but my goal doesn't matter. What matters is, what is that victim's goal, and how do we help them to meet that goal? And sometimes they come into shelter and, their abuser convinces them, come back home. And so statistics say that she'll leave 7 times before it's final. But we also know that when she leaves, the probability that he will kill her goes up by 70%. That's scary. If you're a woman living in that situation and you know that statistic, that is scary.
Well, and I want to stop you there for a second because the woman knows that to statistics a lot of time because it's the threat that's already been made.
Exactly.
So they're not just living the statistic, they're part of the statistic before it even gets out into the public.
Exactly.
Because I want to talk a little bit about that because we're heading into the downward trend of this. We're 40 minutes. Sandra, how do you feel 40 minutes in? Do you feel like that this 40 minutes kind of flew by?
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, it doesn't take too long to
did.
chew up 55 minutes of time, but
Wow.
you know, when we're talking about victims and we're talking about the behaviors, a lot of times I think people misunderstand a lot of times what goes on because they want so badly to push somebody out of that situation. And instead of kind of embracing the and I say this really cautiously, embracing the moment and relaxing and taking your time, they tend to push on the gas pedal and they push people away. And it almost pushes them back to the abuser because they're not listening. They're pushing them through something they're not ready for. Can you talk a little bit about that and how people should readjust? Go ahead.
Well, one of the red flags of an abuser is they try to isolate their victim from friends or family. Like if a family member or friend has anything negative to say about their behaviors, they're like, oh well, they're wrong. They don't care about you. So then it's something that you really don't realize until it's too late. Like when you're the victim in that situation. So many people don't know that. You know, when you already have that victim mentality, it's really easy for somebody to abuse you. So.
And you've been brainwashed into believing that, you know, I'll have your kids taken away from you. You've got nowhere to go. I paid the bills. How are you going to support yourself? How are you going to do this? And they, like Sandra was saying, domestic violence doesn't start like first date and punches her in the face. Come on, what kind of crazy girl will go out with him again after that?
It's conditioning.
It is a conditioning that starts. And, you know, I always say beware of anybody who's way too interested in you, because usually when they just want you, and they want to learn more and more about you, it's because I need ammunition for later. And it starts slowly. And it's like, okay, I like your hair when you wear it up better than I like when you wear it down. So the next thing you know, you're wearing your hair out more and more often because, well, that makes them happy, you know, or I like you better when you wear this color versus this color. Or, you know, that friend of yours, I don't know why you're friends with her. Every time you're not looking, she rolls her eyes at everything you say. She doesn't talk all that nice about you. And slowly but surely, they've isolated you from your friends. They've isolated you from your family because, you know, your family doesn't care about you. A lot of times, they cause them to be fired from their jobs. Now you have no job to even go to. And, you know, it's a slow process that happens over a period of time. And it's a brainwashing. It's a belief that I don't have anywhere else to go.
Well, essentially, it's like also like a form of conditioning, you know, like show you like when we're good, we're gonna be really good. I'll get you all this, but when we're bad, you better watch out.
Yeah.
I'm listening to what you're saying, and in my mind, I've got my hands wrapped completely around this, and I hope the listeners do too. But I've got a question, and it bothers me a lot when I'm talking to people on the show, and I don't care where you're at in life. There are people, and I'm going to describe it here, that I find that sometimes I walk away scratching my head going, why do they feel that way about themselves? And and I want to talk about the beginning side of a lot of downfalls for people, is that they don't have the confidence before they meet their aggressor. Okay, they're already susceptible ahead of time because I'm sure that somewhere in life I kind of felt that way, but I guess maybe I'm too go through the kind of wall that I will go through to survive on the other side. But I've had acquaintances along the way where I've looked at them and talked to them and even said to them, why do you feel so down on yourself? You've got so much value to offer. Why? And I think as a society, we've lost touch with a lot of that, because I know that as a younger generation back then, back in the day, I had those conversations. I don't see those conversations now. And yet I think the suicide rate goes higher. I think the abuse rate goes higher with those same scenarios that we could have handled better before. But do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Let's go back to where we were talking about ACEs, okay? Those adverse childhood experiences. If I don't have the buffers and the support system and the appropriate people in place when I'm experiencing those ACEs, I begin to have a lesser ability to believe in myself, to feel valued, to feel cared for, to feel validated. And then we talk about social media. Okay, so now I've got a crappy household, maybe not even a crappy household. Maybe, dad tends to go get drunk every night after work and doesn't get home till 9, 10 o'clock. But he's not a violent man. Mom is absent because she's working 2 jobs. She's here, she's there. And so the kid's growing up on social media. And then what is the message that they're getting from social media? Disinformation, all this craziness that's on the internet, conspiracy theories and this and that. And if you don't look good enough, and if your picture isn't right enough, and if you don't have enough followers, again, there goes your self-esteem. You're unvalued, you're unvalidated, you're uncared for. And you get all of that adding in. And then all of a sudden you run into this person who seems like they care so much for you. And then 6, 8, 9 months in, when they've got you fairly well isolated, then they start. And you begin to believe, I must deserve this. It's all I've ever known all my life. And it's, what did I do? A lot of times when I work with survivors, I hear, if I could be a better mom, if I can keep a cleaner house, if I could learn to balance the budget, if I could be a better cook. And it's like, it's none of those things. Yeah. Those are just, they take a small insecurity. An abuser will take a very small insecurity and blow it up so big, it becomes the definition of who you are. And so and we were talking about the system there. And one of the things that I wanted to say, because, there's a lot of different services out there, and you're going to run in 50 directions in order to get them all. But as C.A.R.E, we have advocates that will accompany you to those and to help you work through that paperwork and to help you get into those systems in order to make sure that things move smoother once you do leave your abuser.
And something I want to say to you, because everything I've ever heard you talk about, and I, not that I didn't like your answer before, but I want to add something in there, because I think we have, as a society, I think we have something missing. Okay. And I think it's part of the problem, is because this component that we have is we're always trying to tell people what to do to make themselves better. I don't think we have a other than an advocate, okay, which is what you guys do, okay? You listen and you try to uplift, you try to help, and you try to kind of minimize exposure the wrong way, and try to get them to believe more in themselves and the power of decision. Here's my question, and I just don't know if there's anything out there like this, but I'm a huge fan of like Tony Robbins and all these motivational guys. who are always talking uplifting. And when you go to the seminars, they're really moving, they're really positive. And that to me is more of an advocate on the quiet side, okay? The rah quiet advocate. But I'm wondering, where are we missing the component that takes what I consider a large part of the population who feels depression, who feels left out, who feels behind? I mean, we're always talking about child left behind. This is bigger than that child left behind, because it multiplies much quicker as kids get accustomed to hanging out with a group. And it's usually that same group that's kind of feeling the same way. Now you went from an individual to a group, and it kind of grows and festers. We don't really have anything out there that changes a mindset, do we?
Yeah, we do. We care.
What is it?
And we go into different after school programs, and we have Safer Smarter Kids that is geared from preschool all the way through high school, and it's an abuse prevention curriculum that kids really have fun with. And we have Safe Dates, which is a curriculum for adolescent boys and girls and understanding healthy relationships versus coercive or manipulative relationships, looking at red flags, examining what do I want from a partner, how do I want to treat my partner. We have Be the Power and Personal Change, and those are curriculums geared at older kids. We have Girls Circle that we work with the Academy, which is a second chance school for girls. We have Coaching Boys to Men that we work with Charlotte County coaches in mentoring boys to be better men. So we do have things that we do, and right now we are actually looking to recruit adolescents and young adults who want to go viral. And we want to start creating a social media campaign of 1 to 3 minute videos that we're going to be posting on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok on safe dates, healthy relationships, staying safe, and how to do that. And so if you know any adolescents or young adults who want to go viral with us, give us a call. For kids, we're signing off on volunteer hours if they need volunteer hours for school, for graduation. Same with that college students. We believe that it's a message that kids will hear better from kids. And we want to pack it from that social media perspective, right where all their eyes are at.
And here's why I think there's value in that, is that the involvement you're going to get at that level changes a lot of mindsets in the same age brackets. It's sort of like a teenager coming over and talking to me. Yeah, they can talk to me, but I'm going to handle that differently.
Right.
I think if we start attacking this at the ground level, at the root of the issue, and get these kids at least talking to each other about this, even if it's on social media where they learn to communicate with each other with the acronyms and emojis and everything, there's still a cry for help that can be heard. But I want to ask this, and we've got about 6 minutes left. And we have talked about this in the past, and I hit that topic because take the fear away from CARE. And here's how I mean that. I want you to explain to people why they should connect early, not wait for the problem to happen. Connect early, get yourself educated, feel like you're part of a network of people that are trying to just educate on what possibly could happen and how that would change a mindset later on in life. But talk about why parents and other adults and kids shouldn't have the fear of talking to CARE.
Well, because as we've said over and over, we are not here to tell anybody what to do or how to do it. We're here to educate. We're here to support. We're here to empower. We're not here to accuse people of being abusers or being victims or being this or being that. Our goal is really about outreach, awareness, education, prevention. We want to talk to parents. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So we really are looking right now. In fact, we were talking about this morning, Amy and Sandra and I, of putting together a workshop for parents and grandparents and how to talk to your kids about healthy relationships, safe dating, the social media component, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, and who do you turn to, who can you talk to? Because it's not really about, oh, well, you have to be abused in order to come here. No, that's not true at all. If you are being abused, please call us. We are here to help you. But for those that are even questioning, I had a teenage girl call me a couple weeks ago and ask me, is this emotional abuse? And she starts telling me some of the things that her boyfriend is talking to her about. And I said, well, how does it make you feel? Because I can't say it's emotionally abusing if it's said in a joking way and it just bounces off you. But if it's making you feel really bad about yourself, it's probably very emotionally abusive. And probably, how can we help you to develop the skills to say, hey, that's not nice and I don't like it. And if it doesn't stop, then maybe I need to help you learn the skills to say, I'm done. I'm over this. I'm leaving. But my first goal is not going to be, Ron. My first goal is, how do you feel about this? How is it impacting you? And helping you to determine, is this right or wrong for me?
Right. So
John,
talk a little bit.
John, I have to take you off air.
Okay.
Okay.
We're being cut off, John.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we got cut off online.
On the
We got
radio.
cut off
On the
air.
radio.
Yeah.
You can still keep talking on the social media, but we are at 4:00.
4 o'clock. We went past. I was watching the clock, and I'm used to. Well, we started a couple minutes late too.
Yeah.
So hey, but I'll tell you what, John. It always flies by when we get talking. I don't think I've ever sat here going, what to talk about next?
Yeah, you're never bored, are you?
Never.
So talk a little bit, put that flyer back up, and let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll head off the air. But go ahead and talk a little bit about the human trafficking you have on Monday, the 31st of January.
Yes, this is my birthday present to myself. We're doing a human trafficking awareness seminar. We've got Connie Rose, who's the founder of Victims to Survivors in the U.S. We're going to have law enforcement, Sergeant Wanda Hanley from Immokalee, I think, or Henry Glades, out that way somewhere. And she literally works in the field with sex trafficked individuals, labor trafficked individuals. She's literally been out there when they're flying in planes out of Guatemala and they're landing in fields in the middle of the night, dropping off these individuals to be trafficked. We're going to have the United Institute Against Human Trafficking out of Tampa is going to be there. We're going to have survivors of human trafficking that were able to get out of the system. In fact, one of them is an Epstein survivor. So we're really excited to have her. And we're going to have HT service providers. And in the morning, we're going to have some presentations. We're going to provide you with coffee and donuts. And then in the afternoon, we're having a community collaborative where we have all the people coming up with, how do we respond to the call to end human trafficking in our community and in our own backyards? And, I know there are some people that believe that human trafficking doesn't happen here, but it does. It does, folks. I hate to disillusion you, but it does happen right here in our gorgeous Charlotte County.
The third.
So we're really excited. This is really about education. It's 100% free. It's going to be at the Punta Gorda or the Charlotte Harbor Event and Conference Center. I almost called it by its old name. But it's the Charlotte Harbor Event and Conference Center. A thank you to Commissioner Truex, who arranged for us to have the conference center that day free of charge to C.A.R.E. And a shout out to the Punta Gorda Rotary, who is providing coffee and Danish in the morning, and to Florida Council Against Sexual Violence, who also helped us with some grant money to make this happen. So we are really, really excited about this. It's going to be fun. It is not dull, dreary educational lecture. It is going to be a fun, good time. And for
Awesome.
anybody who has providers out there, if you want to have a provider table, let me know. Please email me. My name's right there. And I will set you up with a table where you can advertise your services and attend the seminars.
So do me a favor, Wendy, and I want you to email that to me, and so I can get it over to the radio station so we can do a public announcement.
Okay.
So you'll have some radio coverage for your event from now until the event goes on.
I appreciate that. I did send it to Marie.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'll forward it to Rick.
Awesome. Very good.
Thank you.
And
Yes, the more we can promote, the better.
I have a ton of stuff happening in the background. Believe it or not, I've got a customer. I've got my daughter-in-law who's coming out of surgery. I got to get an update on her. And I've got my neighbor next door. I've got to help her do something real quick. But I love talking with you guys. You know that. I really appreciate your time and coming onto the radio show. Sandra, good luck. I'll see you next month, I'm sure. Wendy, it's always a pleasure. But you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too.
Same to you, John. And I'll say a prayer for your daughter. I hope it always works out well.
I appreciate that so much. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.